What's up, everyone? Beast Mode back here with another video. So today I have another top 16 deck list to feature here. A player by the name of YBP, I hope I'm saying that name right, had actually reached out to me prior to YCS Indianapolis a few days before and had sent me their list and asked me what I thought of it. The list initially that they had a few Raikos. I think it had 2 Raikos in the list, had Alias, had Ocean. It was very similar to this. They were trying to play a hero build, and I just felt that the list was too inconsistent. I just think there was too many extra cards that weren't needed, and especially when I saw the Raikos. So I pretty much said, if I was to play hero zombies, which not my favorite deck, don't really play it, but I think it's still very good. And we've come a long way from the Silchus Rune builds that were very popular about a year ago. I told him essentially that I would play this list here. This best player NA list that I featured on the channel probably, I don't know, maybe a month ago at this point. I felt that this list here was probably the most refined hero build to date, and it definitely has the explosiveness that you're looking for in this current meta with the Gold Sarks. I know you have to wait 2 turns, but you actually get to search for that piece that you need to really be able to rip the game open, and of course Miracle Fusion. So as you can see here, he obviously made some cuts to the deck. Again, I didn't offer any specific cuts to the deck. They kind of took it upon themselves to do so, and had reached out after the event and told me that they placed 11th. So 11th place, top 16. It was a, 150 person tournament or so in paper. So I consider this deck to be a success. Tiebreakers and or maybe a win away from top 8. Some of the things that they had mentioned that they would have changed was probably less Crows and more side hate for Blackwings. Crow is one of those cards that you don't really want to ever have in the sideboard, but you feel that you need because of, especially with the Norealis deck running around, like you have to have some piece of interaction for that. And Dragon Turbo too, as little as this does to that deck, all you really do is hit a Pot of Avarice and or a Magical Stone. It's still probably necessary because at least it can kind of slow them down. I've said it for quite some time. I'm not a huge fan of Crow, but I don't know. I'm hit or miss on it. I'm not sure if 2 is needed. Then you have the question, is 1 enough? But that was kind of their last minute regrets, I would say. They would want to switch the deck. If they had a redo, they would kind of take out some of these Crows and maybe put in a few cards for Blackwings. But let's look at the list quickly here. It's looking like your typical hero build. Still has the 2 turtle, 1 tomato package. I think that Silchus was on 2 and 2, so cutting down 1 recruiter makes a little bit of a difference in terms of how slow the deck can be. The big thing here is double Miracle Fusion, which I do think that this deck needs that extra layer of explosiveness, but then you run into inconsistencies, which is why I thought the Gold Sark build was superior, because of the fact that you can kind of search for the pieces you need, and 1 Miracle Fusion is probably enough. But here they elected to run 2 Miracle Fusion, the 1 Future Fusion. So obviously this deck plays a lot like Diva Hero, and you can just win games out of nowhere. So I do like the 2 I'm going to have to test this a bit more. The 2 Miracle Fusion might be the right number. I don't think it's 3. It's definitely not 3 in this type of build. But the sideboard here, again, they have a few, if they could redo, they would side deck out these 2 Crows, so you can do what you want with those. Double Super Poly here is kind of cool against Frogs, and it's a nifty little card that you can play against heroes as well, especially since you have the whole hero package. So if you're playing something like Hero Zombies, I think you should have at least 1 or 2 of these in the sideboard, so that was a good call by them. Massy Restrict is a card that I'm starting to see a little bit more in the sideboards. I like this card. The problem is playing against Frogs, because that's really what it's good against. They're going to put in, or they main deck like triple Regeki Break. They're starting to main deck some Wing Blast. So it's a really great card if they have no piece of interaction for it. But of course, they know that these cards are coming in, so they're siding accordingly. Excuse me. Pulling the Rug. I go like back and forth with this card. It's pretty good against like Diva Hero. The Machina deck, it's pretty decent against. Problem is, if you're going like second, you probably don't want this card because they already have the Stratos or Diva play. So it's probably a better card going first. I'm not sure. Maybe 1 and or 2 is probably the right number. 3 seems to be a little bit excessive. Mind Crush is a card that I really, really like right now. Dragon Turbo is very popular. This card really destroys them. Again, against Frogs too, especially when they're trying to Monarch loop you. You can call the Monarch that they just sent back to the hand. Or if it's pretty obvious that they're setting up for a Miracle Fusion, you can also call that. So D Prison, I'm not like, I used to side these cards, but then I thought about it. I'm not sure what this card's really doing in the sideboard anymore, and I'm not specifically calling out this player. I just speaking generally. Again, what matchups are you really going to put this in against? Maybe Gladiator Beast. It's not. It's just a generic removal at this point. It's a removal trap. It's not the worst, but if you need to cut something, you could always cut the D Prison. And One Nobleman is another one of those cards where it's really good against value if you see it turn 1. If you don't see it turn 1, it's kind of useless. So sideboard, I think it's fine. Maybe a few things I would change. Light Mira is one of those things where if you're going into a big tournament, you don't really know what's being played or what's popular. Having one Light Mira, you probably can't go wrong just for the Fairy and or Christia Sworn, Light Sworn matchup. So extra deck, sorry, here we have the triple Absolute Zero. You probably have to play 3 because you have Future and Double Miracle. Always have to have the Gaia because you have the Mizuki. Armory Arm is here. You can Armory Arm OTK with the Inferno Prodigy. So if you can make this card, you should be playing it. And I'm not saying that it's probably not worth being in your extra deck if you don't have an actual level 2 in the deck to play with it, because then you're just banking on mind controlling an opponent's Raikou. So if you can play this card, it should be there because you can just steal wins with Armory Arm OTK. You'd be surprised how frequent this happens because it's really difficult to... You really can't stop it from happening unless you have a specific piece of trap removal at that time. And you're just, tributing for a Caius, and next thing you know, they go in Infernal Prodigy, Summon Diva, and next thing you know, they have Colossal Armory Arm, and you're just sitting there and you lost the game. So if you can play this card and actually make it with your 40 or 41 card deck, whatever you're playing, then I would definitely have it in the extra deck. Other stuff here, standard. I see a lot of people cutting this card for the Flameville. I can't remember the other name of it, but it's the one that tramples over defense position monsters. I go back and forth. This card's really good at outing Stardust, but for the most part, Stardust is just not that good. It's kind of one of those things when you see a Stardust, they're probably just going for game anyway. Because that's like the only time you really want to make it, because it gets outed by like everything, Brio, Goyo, just about everything runs over it. So if they're making a Stardust, they're probably just pushing for game and they just want that extra layer of protection. So I could see you cutting this card. I was very... this card really was in my extra deck just to throw out there, so it would eat up a Bottomless. I always said that. You don't want the Brio dying to Bottomless or Torrential, so this was kind of an option. Just throw this out there and see if they respond to it. The Flameville card obviously has an actual effect, so it's probably better overall, but you can pick and choose there. And there is no Doom Kaiser here. So I would say that I understand the reason why, because it's very specific. It only works in specific matchups, being Plague in the graveyard. But the zombie deck that I featured on the channel here that just won the Edison World Qualifier event is everywhere right now. It's the biggest, hottest, newest fad that everybody wants to try. If you play DB ranked ladder, you see that it's everywhere. Again, it's just the newest thing that everybody wants to do right now. It'll probably dwindle down a bit and people will kind of move from the deck after either A, they're bored of it, or B, they realize that, either they're not winning with the deck for whatever reason. Not that the deck's bad, but people just kind of, it's like the new thing, a new shiny toy. So, but I would probably have Doom Kaiser in the extra deck right now just because of how prevalent that deck is. And if people leave me Plague Spreader and the zombie in the graveyard, I'm just going to win. That's how it works. And because a lot of these players playing zombies are not really aware of, especially the mirror matches. It gets very intricate, and you have to be very cautious when you put Plague in the graveyard. You have to be able to be mindful about taking advantage of your opponent's Plague Spreader zombie. So I just think that there's a lot of people downloading the deck and playing it and lack the experience maybe with the zombies, so you can take advantage of that. I would definitely find a way to fit Doom Kaiser in here just because it wins games by itself. And I know it's hard, but overall, I just wanted to feature another deck that did well. Zombies seem to be the new thing right now. They're doing well all of a sudden. It was like a pretty big lull, and then over the last month, we've had 2 or 3 different zombie builds just come out of nowhere and really blossom in this format right now in this metagame. So shout outs to WoBP or WoBP for hooking me up with a deck list so I could feature it on the channel. Congrats on 11th place. I know you wanted that top 8, but it can be tough sometimes, and topping events really requires a lot of luck. You can play, of course, we all play We try to play perfect, but we all make misplays. And sometimes you just have to hope that those misplays don't cost you the game. Sometimes they don't, and oftentimes they do. And you know what I mean, you're staring, looking at the top 8 players because you missed out. But if you keep playing, I know that they said they didn't have much practice with this deck. They kind of threw it together because I saw the original build. So I'm sure if they had a little bit more time to refine and play the deck, they probably would have got that top 8. So coming up, you guys can share with me in comments what you want to see next. I am going to start preparing for the RBET Ruler Tournament. That's kind of like the quote-unquote Worlds Tournament. And there's actually an Edison Worlds Tournament as well. So there's 2 of them this year. I did top 8 last year, so I'm hoping to top 8 again. I'm hoping to win, of course, but so I'm going to start working on a deck and play testing. And of course, we have Fraser Smith's Highlander tournament, the Frozen Soul tournament this weekend. I also have to kind of work on something for that. I have not played competitively in quite some time, so it's going to take a little bit of time to dust off the rust. So I also have in the Beast Mode Discord server, there is an announcement where you can all donate to the BCS Championship, which will take place November 4th. I am currently funding all the prizing myself, so it would be greatly appreciated if anybody wants to contribute, because it's going to be a fun tournament that is invitational only. So the players that won and or topped, depending on the amount of players, a BCS tournament, and the top 16 players of the GOAT War League MVP race are going to be invited. I know it takes place on November 4th, which there is a YCS in Virginia. There's just not another weekend for me to switch it to. There are tournaments every weekend. I know people want to play, and I apologize. Unfortunately, I think people are going to, they might have to miss some of these tournaments because there's just so many of them taking place at the end of the year like this. And I think everybody's really trying to do the best they can to have tournaments on weekends that don't have anything going on. But again, if you guys want to contribute, any of the members, any member subscriptions that take place between now and the tournament will go directly to the prizing. I'm going to make a contribution. My PayPal is up there if anybody wants to send anything there. And obviously, when the stream starts, we will have super chats up. All of those will go directly to prizing as well. So I think with that being said, I'll see you all in the next one.